do a brief presentation, after which we'll open the floor for questions from the media on any number of subjects relating to the presentation he will make, and then the sector as a whole. So I wish at this juncture to invite the Honorable Samuel Nartey George to make his presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to you gathered here in the room and everyone watching, and a very good morning to my brother and colleague, Honorable Felix Kwachiofosu, Minister for Government Communications. We're here this morning as part of the accountability briefing to give a report on the period ranging January to July 2025. As you recall, the ministry has already done 2 such briefings quarterly. And so the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation, under His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, continues to drive Ghana's digital transformation agenda with a focus on 4 key strategic priorities. And these areas are: 1, expanding access to reliable and affordable digital infrastructure; 2, developing inclusive digital skills and talent; 3, strengthening the regulatory and security framework of a digital ecosystem; and 4, enabling innovation, entrepreneurship, and the growth of a robust technology sector. From January to July 2025, the ministry has made substantial progress across all 4 areas, in line with His Excellency the President's reset agenda and pre-election commitments. Now, I'll go into our strategic priorities and the milestones that we have achieved. The first will be the 1 million coders program, which was duly launched. On 16th April 2025, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama officially launched the 1 million coders program, a flagship digital skills development initiative aimed at equipping 1 million young Ghanaians with relevant digital skills. The program received overwhelming interest, with over 90,000 applications submitted within the first 48 hours of opening the portal. The pilot phase, which was rolled out in Accra, Kumasi, Sunyani, and Bolgatanga, has successfully trained 859 participants, of which 52% were women. The program is on track to train another 50,000 learners by end of this year. The implementation of this program is inclusive by design, engaging our local assemblies, schools, community ICC centers, and members of parliament to ensure national coverage and regional equity. Now, in line with this, I've received a lot of questions about why people have not been able to get responses to the applications that were made. We're going to be working on that based on the strategic partnerships that we're beginning to sign. In the period under review, we have signed strategic partnerships with Huawei and Google. We entered into a formal partnership arrangement with these technology giants to drive deeper integration between policy, research, and practical innovations. These partnerships will see both Google and Huawei train 100,000 beneficiaries each under the 1 million coders program. This represents a deliberate move to prepare students for the evolving demands of the digital technology economy under President John Mahama. And my gratitude goes to both technology giants, Huawei and Google, for their belief in the John Dramani Mahama vision. And let us be clear, this Google certificates and Huawei training programs are going to be a mix of in-person and online training programs. And so we'll be rolling out the plan very soon in every constituency in the country to allow for people to take these trainings. And the beauty of the Google 100,000 training is Google already has its AI research lab here in Ghana. And what we're trying to do is to train the people using Google's own certification program, and then on the back of that, get them employed to work with Google or any of its partners and affiliates. The next thing we'll talk about as a national priority is data cost and data prices. The ministry has successfully fulfilled its commitments to reduce data cost for Ghanaians. Effective 1st of July 2025, all major mobile network operators implemented revised mobile data tariffs, significantly increasing the volume of data at existing price points and effectively reducing the price of data. MTN increased all data bundles by 15%, while Telecel and Airtel Tigo raised theirs by 10%. High-use data bundles also saw major improvements, such as the restoration of MTN's 399 Ghana cedi bundle, which now offers 214 gigabytes of data as against the 92 gigabytes of data before the Mahama administration. These changes were the result of a comprehensive reform package introduced in the first quarter of this year, which included a national spectrum review, a revised licensing condition tied to pricing commitments, and direct regulatory engagement with the MNOs. Additionally, the three leading operators have committed to invest a combined $150 million in their networks by the end of the year to improve quality of service and reliability. And let me make the point here that we are very well aware of the challenges of the networks relative to quality of service. And as I indicated in my last press briefing, we've given them the third quarter to implement and utilize the spectrum that has been made available to them. And subsequent to that, in Q4, we will begin rigorous enforcement of quality of service. We will not hesitate as a ministry to give policy direction to the regulator, the NCA, to impose very hefty fines on companies or mobile network operators who fail to meet their quality of service obligations. I would also segue here into the issue of that has become topical of data and data running faster and disappearing. Let me be clear. My fidelity and that of the ministry and the government of President Mahama is to the Ghanaian people. Our interest is the best interest of the Ghanaian people. However, these are technical issues that we would only be able to act on the basis of evidence and not sentiments. I have seen a number of complaints on social media, and I've set up a specialized task force at the NCA and at all the mobile network operators to deal with these complaints. Let me state on the record, every single one of the complaints that have been referred to the team have been investigated, and all of them have proven that it is user settings and user behaviors that have affected the use of their data, and that there has been no price tampering. Let me reiterate, I will not hesitate to deal decisively as minister with any telecom company that falters or alters the pricing that is approved by the NCA. But unless there is evidence of same, you cannot punish somebody just because people are making a claim that is not backed by the evidence. And I can show to the media today evidence, maybe in the Q&A, of some of these instances. In fact, the last one that was dealt with, that I got a report on this morning, the individual complained. I asked the NCA to reach out to him. For 48 hours, he did not respond. So I had to go back on X and retweet at him and say that we've been trying to reach out to you. When we did the investigation, it turned out that he actually handed his own device over to somebody, and when they did the record, they realized that the person used it to watch and stream videos, and that's how come the data he was expecting to keep. And I have evidence of this. I mean, and some of them, we've actually urged some of them to come out and do public sensitization. I'm sure you all saw the one by Mr. DKB, when he complained about his data, and subsequently he realized that it was from his own user behavior. But like I said, we will continue to deal with every single one that comes our way. The third thing we've done is comprehensive ICT legal reform. The ministry has completed a thorough internal review of all existing ICT laws, regulations, and policies. As a result, 15 new pieces of legislation are being drafted as we speak. These include amendments to the Data Protection Act, the new cybersecurity regulations, the Ghana Innovation and Startups Bill, and frameworks for artificial intelligence, digital trade, platform governance, and cloud services. I dare say that at no point in time in the history of our country has any ministry worked on 15 new pieces of legislation at the same time. But that's what we're doing, because when we say there is a reset for the 24-hour economy, this is the digital reset to put Ghana in preparedness to roll out President John Dramani Mahama's 24-hour economy. This legal overhaul is designed to modernize Ghana's ICT regulatory architecture in line with global standards and preserving national interest and inclusivity. The Ghana Startup Bill has undergone both national and regional stakeholder consultations and is now in the final legal drafting phase. This law will provide clarity legally for startups, tax exemptions, incentives, and a streamlined compliance framework for innovation-led firms. In line with the ministry's vision of establishing an enabling legislative framework to foster a competitive investor-ready digital economy, Ghana has been chosen to host the 2025 Global Entrepreneurship Festival, slated for November this year, which will bring in over 100,000 innovators and venture capitalists into the country for a 3-day event holding here in Accra to invest in local startups. 4. Ghana's National AI Strategy and Digital Transformation Blueprint. The Ministry of Communications has led the drafting of Ghana's National Artificial Intelligence Strategy. This draft strategy, which has been co-created through high-level consultations with stakeholders, including the British High Commission, UNESCO, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology's Responsible AI Lab, and GIZ, and the UNDP, has led to a strategy document which has completed legal reviews and is scheduled for cabinet presentation this quarter. Parallel to this, we have continued in May to launch the National Digital Transformation and Emerging Technology Strategy. This document sets out a roadmap for ethical and sovereign integration of emerging technologies, particularly artificial intelligence, across sectors such as agriculture, healthcare, logistics, financial inclusion, and education. This strategy reinforces Ghana's commitment to inclusive, right-based digital development. At the ministry, we have taken action aimed at reform, integrity, and oversight. Because like I stated in my first accountability report, we believe that the Operation Recover All Loot initiative of His Excellency the President is multi-sectoral. And so at our ministry, we have decided to embark on that. First, and reporting on under that will be the Kelny GVG contract. Following concerns about the cost effectiveness of the Kelny GVG revenue monitoring contract, the ministry referred the matter to the Attorney General's Department for review. We have noted that the value of money paid to Kelny GVG has increasingly increased as a percentage of revenue, rising from 28% to 84% in October 2024. I have directed a renegotiation of the terms of the Kelny GVG contract for the remainder of the contract pending the Attorney General's advice, and we have also made the decision not to extend the contract beyond its current terminal date. Smart Infraco and compliance enforcement. You remember and recall that in my first brief to the country, I indicated that we had realized that a private company, Smart Infraco, had 100% access to the National Data Center, and the National IT Agency did not have any access. I immediately directed that should be rectified, and as we speak, NITA has 95% access and root access to the National Data Center and all of our infrastructure. Smart Infraco has also failed to honor multiple financial obligations under the agreements that they have with the ministry, including an upfront payment of $2 million and annual payments of $1 million. I have directed enforcement and compliance of those terms immediately. Efforts are underway now to compel full payment of arrears, else we would take advice from the legal counsel to terminate that contract in order to protect the public interest. NGIC and 5G. The NGIC, Next Generation Infrastructure Company, the exclusive shared neutral 4G, 5G infrastructure provider, is progressing steadily towards its target of activating 350 5G ready cell sites by the last quarter of 2025, with at least 50 live sites for 5G expected in Accra and Kumasi. As of today, NGIC has deployed 16 5G ready sites and received full NCA approval for its core network infrastructure. I've also indicated in my last briefing that failure by NGIC to roll out full commercial activities by end of Q4 this year will lead to me terminating the terms of that contract, taking away the exclusivity clause in there, and opening it up for fresh negotiations. 4. Ghana.gov. The Ghana.gov platform has run under the previous administration of President Akufo-Addo without a contract. Millions of Ghana cedis, in fact, hundreds, tens of millions of Ghana cedis were paid every month to companies without a contract. We have put an end and a stop to that. Since President Mahama came into office, not a peswa has been paid on that, because we cannot keep paying for a project that has no contract. The ministry has redesigned the project. We're going to launch it in Q4 of this year, working closely with the Ministry of Finance. We're currently at the Public Procurement Authority seeking clearance to proceed with a public tender to ensure that the best value for money is achieved for the Ghanaian people. The redesigned site will feature faster access, full Ghana card integration, an intuitive, streamlined interface tailored for both individuals and businesses, and will harmonize all of government's payment gateways and platforms into one portal. 5. Operation Recover All Loot Oral, specific to broadcasting frequency audit. As part of the government's oral initiative, the ministry directed the NCA to conduct a comprehensive audit of broadcasting frequencies. The first phase of the audit revealed multiple regulatory infractions with a total estimated tax penalty of 9.5 million Ghana cedis. Several stations have already been shut down for non-compliance. The ministry remains committed to reclaiming state assets and ensuring that frequencies are allocated transparently and in accordance with law. And you will also recollect that about 5 weeks ago, the ministry issued a directive to the NCA to shut down 64 radio stations. The President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, intervened and requested for amnesty, which we granted a 30-day amnesty. Let me state that of the 64 radio stations, 58 of them have written to the NCA and started the process of regularizing their paperwork. However, you would recall that I indicated that the total number of radio stations in default was 210. The 64 was just one phase. We expect that the public sensitization with the first batch of 64 would have compelled the others to have taken steps to rectify their anomaly. For all those who have failed to take any step, there will be no further public announcement on it. There simply will be enforcement in order of protecting the public resource. 6. Girls in ICT. The ministry has scaled the 2025 Girls in ICT initiative across the Volta region, Upper East region, and Upper West region as part of efforts to close the gender gap in digital skills. In June this year, 1,000 girls from 18 districts in the Volta region completed a 3-week practical training program covering web development, game animation, cybersecurity, and coding, equipping them with relevant tools for Ghana's future digital economy. The Girls in ICT initiative reinforces our inclusive digital transformation agenda by investing in the next generation of female tech leaders and ensures that digital opportunity is genuinely national. And let me once again remind you that this initiative was an initiative that started under President John Evan Sata Mills and Vice President John Dramani Mahama in 2012. Now, on consumer and public interest protection efforts, I'll start with PayPal. The ministry has formally reopened engagements with PayPal to restore full access to its service for Ghanaian users. As of June 2025, PayPal's regional government relations team has issued Ghana a compliance roadmap outlining the technical, regulatory, and financial standards required for whitelist reinstatement. The ministry is working closely with the Bank of Ghana and other key stakeholders to fulfill these conditions and to ensure PayPal also meets the necessary requirements to operate in Ghana. This effort is a strategic priority to expand access to global digital payment platforms for freelancers, SMEs, startups, and the creative sector. Securing PayPal access will remove a long-standing barrier to participation in the global digital economy and expand financial inclusion and cross-border trade opportunities for millions of Ghanaians. We're working closely with the governor of the Bank of Ghana to ensure that PayPal is given access to our economy and our digital space. However, we'll insist that PayPal will comply with the regulations of the Bank of Ghana. 2. TikTok. As part of our efforts to promote a safe, vibrant, and inclusive digital creative economy, I met with TikTok's West Africa Government Relations team on the 26th of June. Our discussions focused on enforcing age restrictions, safeguarding minors, and promoting responsible content development. I urged TikTok in that meeting to ensure fair compensation for Ghanaian content creators, and I also proposed the establishment of a local moderation and content governance team to reflect Ghana's value, protect our user rights, and support national regulatory expectations. I'm looking forward to the TikTok partnership with the ministry to provide capacity building for our content creators in the country on how best to monetize that platform for the benefit of Ghanaian content creators. That should happen in Q4 this year. Now, MultiChoice Ghana. I made the announcement that I had directed MultiChoice to be present at the ministry for a meeting. At that meeting, we requested a 30% reduction in pricing for subscribers of MultiChoice Ghana's packages. The meeting addressed public concerns about affordability, value for money, and fairness in service delivery. I made clear the ministry's expectation that pricing structures had to be responsive to Ghana's current economic context. I made a formal request of 30% reduction in the package pricing and gave a deadline of July 21st for a formal response from MultiChoice. On the 21st of July this year, I received a 9-page letter from MultiChoice detailing why they were refusing to reduce their pricing. Their reasons included that the cedi had depreciated in the preceding 8 years by 240%. And they claimed that my request for a reduction on the basis of the appreciation of the cedi was unfounded because, in their words, the appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi over the last 6 months has been a fluke which could not be sustainable. As minister, my fidelity is to the Ghanaian people. I have had to act in the interest of the Ghanaian people. And I believe that the Ghanaian people have been fleeced and exploited for too long. I wrote back to the NCA on Monday and directed the NCA in that letter to suspend the broadcasting license of DSTV effective 7th of August 2025 if they fail to effect a reduction in their bundle prices. I cannot, as minister, serving the Ghanaian people, continue to watch what can best be described as plain stealing happening to the Ghanaian people. In my letter to them, I gave them scenarios from 7 markets that DSTV is operating in. The same content in the premium bouquet that is offered to Ghanaians for $83 equivalent is offered to Nigerians for $29 equivalent. How can anyone explain this price disparity to me? Enough of the mistreatment of the Ghanaian consumer. They either comply with the reduction, because in Nigeria, in the same time frame that they say the Ghanaian cedi has depreciated by 240%, the Nigerian naira has depreciated by 409%. If Nigerians are paying equivalent of $29, DSTV must charge same here in Ghana, or we will suspend their broadcasting license effective 7th of August 2025. The ministry would continue to leverage our public-private and bilateral partnerships to expand digital opportunities, attract investment, and catalyze structural reforms across the ICT sector. In telecom sector restructuring, there's a major realignment underway with Airtel Tigo. We're working closely with the Attorney General's Department to look at the financial viability of Airtel Tigo, and we're currently in negotiations with a number of options on what the way forward with Airtel Tigo will be. I'm sure in the next 30 days, we'll make a national announcement on what will happen with Airtel Tigo. On youth and skills development, apart from the strategic partnerships that we have signed with Huawei and Google, we have also signed strategic partnerships with MTN and Telecel, 2 telecom operators in the country, to train and help co-develop Ghana's National Artificial Intelligence Innovation Center. This agreement will see the commitment of critical resource to the training of 5,000 young people in artificial intelligence and related digital skills over the next 18 months. MTN Ghana, as part of their contribution to government, is building a $25 million artificial intelligence innovation center at the Accra Digital Center in Circle. This partnership will strengthen Ghana's institutional and workforce readiness for AI adoption. Earlier this year, the ministry signed an MOU with the UAE government to co-develop a $1 billion Ghana UAE Innovation Hub. The project will anchor high-tech manufacturing, startup incubation, and digital services with a multi-phase construction scheduled to commence in 2026. Currently, we have just completed work with the Lands Commission in identifying the 25-kilometer square land in Dawa in the Ningo Prampram district to begin the construction work. In conclusion, the Ministry of Digital Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation continues to reaffirm its commitment to building a secure, inclusive and innovation-driven digital economy. The first half of 2025 has seen tangible results in law reform, digital inclusion, infrastructure rollout, sector regulations and strategic partnerships. As we enter the second half of the year, we remain focused on consolidating these gains and delivering a digital Ghana that benefits every citizen, every business, and every region. In July, at my last Meet the Press, I reaffirmed Ghana's digital leadership, and I will continue to do so as I did at the ITU Council in Geneva, where I secured alignment with global telecom agendas and strengthening bilateral cooperations on digital infrastructure and governance. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to all the agencies of the ministry, our partners, our stakeholders, and Ghanaians who have supported and engaged with our work so far. Together, we are shaping a digital future that is equitable, that is resilient, and full of opportunities for all. But before I end, let me just touch on one other thing we have done as a ministry, has been in the area of law enforcement, from the Cybersecurity Authority. We have carried out a number of operations in collaboration with other state agencies. Coming Monday, the CSA and the police CID will hold a joint press conference to give full details of all the work that we have done. But we are committed to clamping down on illegal activities in the cyberspace, especially human trafficking. We're seeing a lot of human trafficking happen in the country, but I want to say a very big thank you to the leadership of the Cybersecurity Authority and our allied security agencies in the national security architecture who have worked with us to keep Ghana resilient. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. So the floor is now open for questions from members of the media present. So please introduce yourself quickly and then ask your question. And as I have always indicated at this program, we would appreciate the avoidance of lengthy preambles to questions. Please go ahead.
Minister, good morning. My name is Kwame Anum. I report for Multimedia's Adom FM, Adom TV, and Asempa FM. I want to bring the minister to the data pricing. The recent enhancement that we've seen has been greeted with some discussions. People are saying that the current package we have can be sold at a very reduced price, saying that still consumers believe what you have done is good, but it must be reduced. Looking at the indicators that inform data pricing, do you think that we are experiencing the best, or the best is yet to come? Or will you be tempted to say that the consumers are being ungrateful? Right. The second question is that there is supposed to be a quarterly data integrity monitoring by the NCA in terms of billing, so that that can curb the current issue around depletion of, or fast depletion of data. What is the NCA's current status in terms of that integrity test that they are supposed to run? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good morning. My name is Shadrach Odamejare, Metro TV. Honorable, my first question is on rural telephony projects, and the acting CEO mentioned some abandoned projects, and most of them, after he took over, he realized were existing on paper but not physically. Going forward, are you going to move these projects forward and hold responsible, if any, people who have done any wrong in that line? And I think your outfit also deserves a thumbs up looking at all the ICT things you have mentioned. But After roaming 15 out of the 16 regions, there are a lot of places I visited that has issues with accessing data and network on in general. So are we also going to see, or going forward, how fast are we going to see these areas getting access, so that if I'm moving from Bunturugu to Yoyo, I know I can still take part in the 1 million coders project? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Komla Klusha, I work at TV3. Specifically on the NGIC 5G rollout deadline that you have set. You said as of today, NGIC has deployed 16 5G ready sites and received full NCA approval for its core network infrastructure. And you've indicated that failure to commence full commercial 5G activities by end of the fourth quarter would lead to a renegotiation or termination of the existing license agreement. We were told, I think as of last year or so, that by the 1st of December, once you switch on your phone, you should be able to access 5G. What did you inherit, and why are we where we are as of now? The last bit has to do with the caution, so to speak, or for want of a better word, the threats that you have issued to multi-choice. How do you respond to the question of market size? Yes, Nigeria has well in excess of 100 million citizens. Ghana is hovering around 35 million. They are looking also at market penetration. Would it be fair for you to go with the threats, looking also at the penetration and also the quality of service that they have had to offer both countries?
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Romeo Teta. I report for Ahunto FM. Honorable Minister, fake news continues to spread heavily across Ghana's social media, especially X. Well, from your perspective, how serious is the threat to national cohesion and public safety? And what steps is the ministry taking to monitor and reduce spread of misinformation and disinformation online without infringing citizens' freedom of speech? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if there are no more questions in this round, okay, we'll take one last question in this round.
Okay, my name is Wisdom Hedejime. I work for TVXYZ. I want to find out, beyond the training of the 1 million coders, what job markets are available to accommodate them?
Thank you very much. So, Honorable Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just trying to get a particular document to respond to the multi-TV one, but okay, good. Kwame from Adum FM asked on data pricing and whether we want, people are asking for further reductions. I mean, it is fair that people would ask for more, but it must be driven by the fact and the science. And so I made a request to the International Telecoms Union, the IDT, to carry out an independent survey of Ghana and our data pricing and telecom pricing vis-a-vis macroeconomic indicators and the sub-region. We're expecting to get that report by end of September. And once we get that report, it will arm us with the right steps to take. Are we going to be asking for further reductions, or do we sit where we sit? I think that we will continue to explore this. But let me also be clear that a lot of this is market forces driven. So it's a demand and supply thing. And that's why I believe that the previous administration did us great disservice, where Google was willing to land their Equiano cable in Ghana. And because of whatever personal interest existed in the ministry at the time, we frustrated Google from landing its Equiano cable, and they took the cable to Togo. Why is Equiano critical for the cost of data in Ghana? There are currently 5 cables that land in Ghana, submarine cables that land in Ghana. If you put the 5 cables, the capacity together, that capacity is less than 70% of what Equiano alone carries. So if Equiano had landed here, it's a supply market, it's a demand and supply thing. When you have double the capacity in country, automatically the prices will drop. And so we've started work, and last 2 weeks I brought the Senior Vice President of Google to the country, and we met with His Excellency the President, and the President, John Dramani Mahama, told him, James Manyinka, that the government is willing and ready to engage with Google, and that we wanted Equiano here before the end of 2026. Commitments have been made by Google's end, and we are hopeful that we will work with Google and expedite whatever actions to ensure that Equiano lands here in Ghana to improve capacity. On the quarterly integrity data assessment that's done by the NTA, yes, the NTA is on the course to do that. We rolled out this on the 1st of July, which was the beginning of the third quarter. So it's a quarterly thing. So they're going to do the survey July, August, September for Q3, and then present the report. So once we get that report in Q3, we'll definitely make that available to the public. But another regulatory directive I've given to the NCA, which is being explored right now, is, you see, when you make phone calls, at times you get a pop-up message that tells you that you spoke for this long and this amount of your credit has gone, so this is your balance. We're trying to see if we can work with the telcos to ensure that at the end of every day, they also send you a pop-up message like that, that gives you on a daily basis, a report of what your data usage has been, so that it's also able for you to then work. Because every one of the cases I've investigated, we've had to request for the CDRs. And so it's the CDRs that allow us to then determine what your data records have been. But if you also, as a customer, is giving a daily update, it lets you understand if something is going off or if there's something wrong with your system. I think that provides us more transparency. And so we've asked the NTA to explore that with the MNOs. Shadrach from Metro TV asked about the rural telephony sites. Abandoned projects, what is next? Very true. There are about 400 of the 1,500 sites that had been on paper constructed that have equipment at different levels of erection. Why are people laughing? Okay, different stages of construction. My choice of words are very interesting. Anyway, and so you have some of the areas where the masts have been constructed, but there's no traffic running through there. So people say that they see the mast, but it's not working. And so we've engaged the contractor, Ascend Digital, and we're asking for them to complete that. And then we are dispatching them to complete their almost 500 sites that have not been started at all. And so we're hoping that before the end of this quarter, they would go back. We're doing full audits of it, and they've not been paid fully. There's still some money that is owed them. We will not authorize the release of those payments until we see full execution of the project. And he spoke about data access in rural communities. That's where the real challenge is, because you see, most of these cell sites were 2G and 3G sites, the rural telephony sites. Most of what were built were 2G and 3G. And so you realize that a lot of the data experience is actually 4G. So in those areas, even though they are rural telephony sites, if you are in a rural part of the country or driving through a rural part of the country and you are on the rural telephony network, your data experience is almost non-existent. You can only make voice calls. And that's why for us as a ministry, we've indicated that we're going to review RTP1 and RTP2, which is a rural telephony project, see how well we can upgrade them to 4G sites to be able to give data experience there. And as we begin to explore RTP3 sites will all be 4G and 5G enabled, because we believe that you must not only take voice to the rural community, you must take data as well, because that's the only way you can bridge the digital divide. Kamla from TV3 asked about NGIC and the previous claim. I think it was sometime in November 2024 that the previous administration launched with fanfare 5G. Let's just say that it was smoke screens and voicemail. There was actually no fact. I mean, even that day at that center where they launched the 5G, there was no 5G network, and there is no 5G anywhere. If there was 5G, I haven't directed the NCA or NGIC to turn off any 5G site. We would have seen it. But I think it's such smoke screens and gaslighting from the previous administration that made the Ghanaian people give such a decisive victory to President Mahama. And that's why for me as his Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, I'll be truthful and honest with the Ghanaian people. We have no 5G service in the country. NGIC has received all the necessary approvals. In fact, last 2 weeks, I gave the final connecting entity license approval for MNOs. They're asking for an additional license for ISPs, which I have declined. My argument is simple. You have a license. You've had it for almost 3 years. At the very least, I've given you the authority and the license to regulatory approval for you to connect to MNOs. Focus on that and roll out with MNOs. Why do you want me to add additional ISP licenses for you? No, deal with MNOs. Let's see that you've rolled out with MNOs. 6 months after you've rolled out with MNOs, we'll consider granting ISP licenses as well. But for now, like I have indicated, if by end of Q4, we do not see a full commercial rollout on telecom operators of the NGIC 5G network, we would take away the exclusivity clause and then review the entire license arrangement in the interest of the Ghanaian people. Multi-choice. Now, commonality is not a threat. It's simply a policy direction. Whom am I to issue threats? I'm merely a policy maker. And so the policy position of the government is clear. I'm just going to run through a portion of my letter to DSTV. In that letter, I compared Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, and Ghana has a bigger population than Liberia, Angola, Botswana, that Ghana is bigger than as well, Eswatini, clearly Ghana is way bigger than Eswatini, and South Africa. For the premium package, Ghana pays 82 equivalent. What I did was I took all the package prices and pegged them at the central banks of all of these countries, their rates to the dollar, so that we have a uniform pricing. For premium package, Ghanaians are asked to pay $82.40. Nigerians are paying $29. Liberia is paying $61. Angola is paying $33. Botswana, $61. Eswatini, $52. South Africa, $51. Clearly, Ghana is way so high. There is no justification. It's the same content, the same old movies that are being shown. So there is no justification for Ghana being almost 30% more expensive. If you go to Compact Plus, Ghanaians are paying $54.3. Nigerians are paying $19.6. Liberia is paying $36. Angola is paying $27. Botswana is paying $43. Eswatini, $35. South Africa, $34. Again, you see the clear disparity. You go to Compact. Ghanaians are paying $36.20 pesos. Nigerians are paying $12.40 pesos. Liberia, $23. Angola, $18. Botswana, $33. Eswatini, $27. South Africa, $25. You go to family. Ghanaians are paying $18.10. Nigerians are paying $4.80. Liberia is paying $13. Angola is paying $11. Botswana is paying $21. Eswatini is paying $19. And South Africa is paying $18 as well. Access, Ghanaians are paying $9.45. $9.45. Nigerians $2.70. Liberia is $8. Angola is $6. Botswana is $10. Eswatini is $9, and South Africa is $7.60 pesos. And let's just be clear. The same multi-choice in June last year did a $30 price reduction in Liberia. Liberia's prices were similar to Ghana. They slashed the premium price by $30, slashed all the lower bundles by $17. What is good for Liberians and Nigerians is good for Ghanaians. I am not threatening multi-choice, and I'm not hounding them out. We're simply protecting the Ghanaian people. I have made a request for 30%. What what I consider a proactive step will not be you writing to me and tell me that the prudent management of the economy by the Mahama administration that has led to upgrades in our credit rating by Standards and Poor's, Fitch, you tell me that that is a fluke. And so in my letter to MultiChoice, I asked them since when they began rating economies. Because for them to tell me that the improvement, the over 30% appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi is unsustainable and cannot be projected against, I want to know what expertise they have in determining the future of the Ghanaian economy. We are simply acting as regulators. We will not give a license to a foreign entity to come and fleece Ghanaians. You want to work here in Ghana, you will work in the interest of the Ghanaian people. I gave them 21 days, they responded. I've given them another 7 days. By 7th of August, the NCA would suspend their broadcasting license if they don't come back to us with a reduction in price for the Ghanaian people. And I know that they are banking their hopes that the Ghanaian people will complain about the Premier League. No, there are several ways of killing a cat. Romeo, I'm not a cat hunter, please. Don't let my in-laws come after me. You know my wife is a Voltarian. That's on the lighter side. Me and Komla have eaten cat meat before. Romeo from Ahuto asked about fake news. Yes, I indicated that we had 15 legislation underway. One of them is a legislation on misinformation, disinformation, and fake news and hateful speech. That is also about 90% complete. It's about to come to Cabinet for Cabinet approval, and we will lay it before Parliament, hopefully in the third meeting of this year, the third meeting of this first session of Parliament. Let's be clear. The days of fake news are numbered. And already the Cybersecurity Authority has been taking very swift action on some offenders. But we would codify this in a clear piece of legislation so that the judiciary themselves are aware. Because you see, it's one thing when you identify people who are peddling and then you even put them before courts, and the courts are unable to appreciate, because everybody is minded that we're not reintroducing criminal libel, and I need to be very clear about that. Free speech is a fundamental right, and we will protect the free speech. In fact, there are huge protections in the legislation that we have drafted. However, your freedoms end where my rights begin. And so you cannot enjoy your freedoms at the expense of another's rights to decency and protection against fake news. So, Romeo, there's work underway in that regard, which will be completed soon. Wisdom from XYZ asked about the 1 million coders and asked, what next after the 1 million coders? That's why we're focused on doing these partnerships with global giants. So if you were one of the 100,000 who get trained by Huawei, and then we're trying to move you off into one of the telecom giants to work, most of the telecom giants are running Huawei systems anyway. Huawei is one of the biggest telecom operators or in OEMs, original equipment manufacturers in the world. So if you are trained and certified by Huawei, you have a better chance than even many university graduates in being employed by the sector you've been trained in, because you've been trained by those who manufacture the equipment themselves. It's the same thing we've done with Google. Google is the biggest search engine in the world. And today, Google has the certification programs. In fact, 100,000 certificates that Google has given to us is valued at almost $2 million. So when you're trained by Google, and we're working very closely with Simon Maggi at GIPC, to bring in a number of business process outsourcing and knowledge process outsourcing jobs here. In fact, the BPO market is $4 trillion. Now, imagine if Ghana could attract even 10% of that market into our economy and what that will do for us. But to attract BPOs, they want to be sure that you've got the requisitely skilled people in data governance, in data forensics, in data management, cybersecurity. If we trained them just regularly, they will be certified, they'll be well trained, but their trainings are not international. But if the training they undertake is Google certified, when you bring in a BPO or a company from Europe or from America to set up in here, and you tell them I have 100,000 data analysts trained and certified by Google, that immediately opens up the market. And so what we're trying to do is position Ghana as a key player in the BPO ecosystem. We want to take part of that market away from India and the Philippines, which currently run this $4 trillion market, to bring at least $400 million worth of that here. And there's track record. President Mahama did it in his first term, and we'll take it to the next level in Mahama 2.0. Thank you.
Okay, we have barely 10 minutes to wrap up, so we'll take just 2 questions.
Thank you, Minister. I am
short questions,
Marcosia. I work with Channel 1 TV and City FM. We've seen a number of Nigerian filmmakers complain about the unauthorized broadcasts of their films. You were swift to respond to some of these concerns, but we want to find out from you, what is the immediate action being taken by the ministry to address these copyright infringements? Thank you.
Thank you.
Maxwell Ababa, Joy FM, Joy News. Okay, so I'm interested in the $1 billion digital and the technology and innovation hub. Minister, some of your critics are already predicting doom and gloom for that project. In fact, they say that it's going to take the same trajectory like the Hope City project. I know the Hope City project was private sector led. This has a government-to-government structure. I want to find out from you, what would you say to allay their fears? Thank you.
Yeah, that was short. Honorable Minister.
I get a sense that the 2 people who question normally have very lengthy questions, but they've pleasantly surprised the Minister for Government Communications. Akosua City and Channel 1, unauthorized broadcast of films and copyright infringements. It's not just limited to Nigerians. In fact, yesterday at home, my wife drew my attention to a complaint, I think by Kalsum Scenario or something, of a new movie she shot, which was being aired on Zandi Kamel, her movie which is just released, being aired and broadcast on national TV. Now, let's be clear. Myself and my brother Felix have very intertwined mandates when it comes to TV. As the Ministry of Communications, we deal with licensing. Now, the Ministry of Government Communication will have oversight of the agencies that deal with content. So the National Media Commission, even though constitutional, will have some government engagements with the Ministry of Government Communication and the National Film Authority. But we've taken critical steps. Myself and Felix met with the National Film Authority and the NMC. We had a joint stakeholder engagement where we discussed this issue, and we're beginning to come up with the framework that's going to guide broadcast of material and protection of intellectual property rights. So the point here is this: you would need to have a multi-sectoral approach where the Film Authority, the National Media Commission are looking at the issues and raising them with the Ministry of Government Communication, and where there are defaults or recalcitrants, we will step in with the regulator to enforce or sanction errant media houses. In fact, let me just state that I'm writing officially to the National Media Commission, and that letter is to give the National Media Commission a 30-day mandate. And it looks like I like 30 days. But I'm giving them a 30-day mandate to take advantage of resource that the NCA, which is under my ministry, has put at their disposal. The Broadcast Monitoring Center. The NMC has always complained that they don't have capacity. We have built capacity as the NCA. But because by law we don't deal with content, we've made that available to the NMC. We record and store for at least 90 days every single broadcast in this country, both radio and TV. It comes at huge expense to us at the NCA. We could be using that money for something else, but we've put it at their disposal. If the NMC fails to fulfill their mandate of dealing with content, the NCA may be forced, in the interest of public safety and morality, to begin to take licensing action on the basis of unwholesome content that we are seeing. We will not, under the watch of President Mahama, allow what happened under the previous administration where ritual content drove 10-year-olds to commit murder of their own friend in Kaswa. We call on the NMC to step up its work and do what is right. I know there's a new commission, and I'm urging them to take advantage. We at the NCA and at the ministry are willing and ready to comply and work with them. They need to clamp down on fetish practices and money doubling schemes that are going on TV. That is unwholesome content. And so the NMC is being called to do their work. We would support them. Maxwell, Joy, UAE Hub. I mean, if you've been bitten by a snake before, when you see an earthworm, you'll be worried. I mean, but let me be clear. This is no Hope City. This is called the Innovation Hub. And this is being led under the auspices of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. I give you full assurances. Like I said to you, just last Wednesday, we went to the Lands Commission to identify the land. The site plans are being developed. The project management office has been set up already. And the Emiratis are serious people, just as serious as the Ghanaians are. We are not going to play around with this. This, for me, is a legacy issue. And we'll ensure that it is executed in phases. And I'm sure that as construction starts in 2026, we'll invite you for you to come and see the work that's going on there. What we are doing is a critical need. The world needs an AI footprint on the African continent. And we've taken leadership as Ghana over the last 7 months in what we're doing legislatively. And so you've got a lot of African workloads today being processed out of Dubai and the GCC. But those African workloads should be processed here. And that's why they're bringing this hub here. And you'll see all of the tech giants move their African headquarters into Accra so that we can begin to work. It's a commitment we've made. It's a commitment we will keep. We promised to drop data prices and increase the bundle. We delivered. We've promised now that DSTV would either comply or pack up and go. We've delivered. We are promising you an innovation hub. We will deliver. Thank you. In fact, we promised you 1 million coders. We've delivered.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for delivering on those promises and apprising us of the work done so far to realize those objectives. On this note, we will draw down the curtains here for today's edition of the Government Accountability Series. With immense thanks to the Minister and to yourselves in the media for attending upon us. On Monday, the Honorable George Opariado, Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment, will be here to update us on the various youth development and job creation interventions introduced by the John Dramani Mahama administration. So until then, goodbye.